Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. Congressman, great to have you back, sir.
Good to be with you guys.
What are you expecting from this today? I mean, just first, if you'd lay out for everybody, who is this individual who is going to be testifying today, and what have we learned so far from the whistleblower just based on the testimony behind closed doors?
Well, I think, first of all, we're going to learn that these guys are credible. Both have served over 10 years in the IRS, outstanding performance evaluations. They were the go-to guys, the A-team, when it came to international tax fraud investigations. Been all over the world doing these kind of cases. And I think the fundamental question, Buck, is who are you going to believe? You're going to believe these guys, and who frankly, story has not changed, whose testimony has been consistent, as it was confirmed by an FBI agent who was interviewed Monday by the committee. Are you going to believe them? Or are you going to believe the Biden-Garland Justice Department that was just found 2 weeks ago by a federal court to be censoring Americans, the Biden Justice Department that said parents were terrorists, the Biden Justice Department that said pro-life Catholics are extreme? I mean, that's the fundamental question. And I think these guys' credibility is going to come through loud and clear in this hearing. And I think that's really the essence of what's and they're going to talk about all the inconsistencies, this investigation versus every other investigation. And then some of the things that were done that never happened, like the prosecutors calling up the defense attorneys and saying, hey, we're looking to get a subpoena to search the storage unit. You might want to check it out. When is that ever happened in an Never. So those are the kind of things that I think will come out from two very credible individuals who've been, serving the taxpayers for a long time now.
Well, I can't wait to see these revelations come out in public and also see how the media is going to cover them. And in a larger context here, Congressman, do you think Joe Biden is going to run? Do you think the Democrats want to run him? Do you think that the drumbeat of clear evidence of the Biden crime family is impacting what decision he may make? How would you assess Biden as we look towards 24?
Yeah, I think he's probably running. What have they said? I guess we understand why they're not going to let anyone debate him. So I don't know if he's even able to do a debate here. So, but I do think he's going to be their candidate. I guess their goal is to try to have this election, see if they can get through it, see if there's somehow they can win. I don't think they're going to. I think it's going to be President Trump. But I think he's running. We'll see. We're trying to interview. Chairman Coleman has been trying to interview Devin Archer, one of Hunter Biden's business partners. We've been working on trying to set that up. We hope that happens because we think there's going to be some pretty good information that he can get if Devin Archer's under oath and testifying in front of the committee in a deposition. But that hasn't happened yet. But the facts I think we have now are pretty compelling of just how – because the fundamental question is, what were they getting paid for? 20 different LLCs and shell companies paying 9 different Bidens millions of dollars. What was the service they were providing? What was the value they were adding? What was the product that they offered? There's no answer to that other than, somehow they're connected to Joe Biden. So that, I think, just people sort of instinctively get that. And then you couple that now with these two whistleblowers who've never been whistleblowers before, who were reluctant to come forward, who followed their chain of command and first raised their concerns in the IRS before ever coming to Congress. And the credibility I talked about a few minutes ago, again, I think their credibility is frankly unimpeachable.
Congressman Jordan, is anything going to come of any of this? I mean, really, either from a congressional action or just it feels like, okay, we're going to find out that the fix was in all along and Hunter Biden's going to skate because that's the system that exists right now. I mean, what has to happen? We have a Republican president who comes in who decides that things will be different, but is Congress going to do anything about this? You tell us.
Well, we a couple things we're focused on in the Judiciary Committee. This is going to be today in front of the Oversight Committee. But in the Judiciary Committee, we are focused on using the appropriations process to put limitations on how taxpayer dollars are spent at the Justice Department, because we think, as we've talked about, that's been turned on the American people. So we have a number of policy writer language elements that we're going to get into those bills. And then, frankly, from just a civil liberties standpoint, 702, the key section in FISA, is up for reauthorization, and there is no way that's getting reauthorized in its current form. So we're focused there in the legislative side of things and the appropriation side of things. But ultimately, it requires a new president, requires a new Justice Department for things to get different there. And, that's decided by we the people every, the first Tuesday after the first Monday every 4 years in November.
So, Congressman, I think this is going to be, again, really difficult to refute when these guys step out and speak publicly. Because it's one thing, and I'm curious if you would agree, it's one thing to read what they might say and have that distributed, but the clips themselves, being able to see them as they speak, all of these things. What do you expect the media to do, right? How do you expect CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, the usual propaganda media suspects, how do you expect them to handle today's testimony?
Well, the whistleblowers were compelling, but remember, they're the investigators. The prosecutors make the decision on what to charge, when to charge, and where to charge. So, investigators always want to go forward. They've been working on the case, but in the end, it's the attorneys. It's the prosecutors who make the decision. And they decided, after looking at all this, that after all, Hunter Biden's getting charged. That, I think, is going to be the argument. The whistleblowers, you're right, Clay. We want to let them talk. I always say they're whistleblowers, so let them blow the whistle. Let them talk today in today's hearing. And just like we had a hearing a few months back with 3 FBI whistleblowers, Garrett O'Boyle, and he got to talk and explain what the FBI did to him and his family. Wouldn't let him get access to his belongings, his kids' clothes, for goodness sake. And when you hear the retaliation and how it impacted him and his family on a personal level, that is compelling, and it just reinforces the facts he had given us about a number of different issues he talked to us about. So I do think but I think the left is going to go with that narrative. Oh, okay, these are the investigators. But the prosecutors make the decision, and they were looking at their years of experience, and they decided to go this way. But again, when you look at their testimony, the prosecutors and the investigators were in agreement for most of the investigation. And then when it gets close to charging, suddenly they change. And I think they changed because there were discussions. This is straight from David Weiss, discussions taking place between the U.S. attorneys in Delaware and Maine justice. So what were those discussions about, and were those discussions the reason that suddenly things changed?
Congressman Jordan, people have been saying we need to do something about the politicized FBI. What about the politicized IRS and those who are looking at something like the Hunter Biden case specifically? Is it something that you think Congress should look to try to have a hand in reforming through legislation, or is it just maybe cutting back the funding? Because while everyone says, well, we should, not everyone, but people have been saying, let's defund the FBI. I mean, you're going to defund it to fund something else. It's not really clear to me how that necessarily plays out.
Yeah,
but cutting the IRS funding in half, I think a lot of people would say, yeah, I think that'd be okay.
Yeah, certainly not given the 80,000 new agents they want. And we passed legislation to get rid of that early in this Congress. Unfortunately, it just sits over there in the Senate. But I do think you're right, too, about the FBI. We don't want to defund the rank-and-file agents. By and large, those guys are doing a great job. What we do want to do is change how the money is spent and reallocate how things are done here at headquarters, here at the Washington field office, here in the D.C. area. And we are focused on doing that during the appropriations process. But when it comes to the IRS, we don't want these new agents. And like I said, that was the first bill we passed in the Republican-controlled House. And we put some of that limits on how the funds could be spent at the FBI in the debt ceiling agreement from a few weeks ago.
Jim, do you think Congressman Jim Jordan with us right now? He's doing fantastic work. Can't wait to see in about 20 minutes when this hearing begins. Do you think, based on all the evidence that you've seen, that Merrick Garland and maybe President Biden himself should be impeached by the House? Would you vote to impeach both based on what you've seen in the evidence so far?
I've said all along, when it comes to any impeachment question, that's a decision for the entire conference, because once you go down that road, it consumes Congress. I mean, I was on the other side of it just a few years ago, helping defend President Trump, and I spent weeks in the bunker in the basement of the Capitol and doing depositions with Adam Schiff and the whole thing. So if you decide to go down that's a big decision. But the Speaker's been clear. He says we are getting much closer to an impeachment inquiry into the actions of the Justice Department. So I'm with the Speaker. I think we continue to get the facts, but if it's warranted, we have a constitutional duty to go there. But we need to go into that with our eyes wide open, because it truly, as you all remember from just 5 years ago, 4 years ago in 2019, when they impeached President Trump over the phone call, for goodness sake, it consumes everything, and we need to understand that if we go that. But if it's required, our constitutional duty would compel us to go there. So I want to continue to get the facts. I do think it's important that Chairman Comer gets to get to that interview of Hunter Biden's business partner, and we have this hearing today.
Congressman Jordan, appreciate you being with us, sir. Thanks again.
You bet, guys. Thanks. Take care.